our friend Dr. Janine Hubbard to dive into the announcement that Manitoba Premier Wap Kinew made on the weekend that Manitoba is going to regulate, we'll have to see how, social media use and chatbot use for those 16 and under. Back with Janine to discuss that momentarily.
Expo, let's go!
Get ready, Newfoundland and Labrador. The Down Home Expo is back. Join us next weekend at the Malpearl Glacier for a weekend packed with great vendors, shopping, games, and plenty to explore. Discover new products around every corner and don't miss the return of the world's largest Plinko standing at 40 feet high with thousands of prizes to be won. Bring the family, bring your friends, and see what everyone's been talking about. Next weekend at the Malpearl Glacier Arena. Visit downhomeexpo.com for details.
Expo, let's go!
Manitoba will ban youth from using social media and AI chatbots, Premier Wap Kinew announced on Saturday. The proposed law protecting youth from the harmful effects of social media will be its first of its kind in Canada. The Premier said the platforms are intentionally designed to get people addicted to the infinite scroll, contributing to mental health issues like anxiety and depression. This is quoting the Premier here, they're doing these very awful things to kids, all in the name of a few likes, all in the name of more engagement, and all in the name of money, Kinew told 900 people at an NDP fundraising gala in Winnipeg on Saturday night. He went on to say more money for a group of rich tech bros who already have a ton. The Premier didn't say the age the province is considering for the ban, how it will be enforced, or a timeline for when it would be implemented. He didn't speak to reporters after his speech. We already know, of course, Australia has gone down a path like this, banning social media use for anybody under the age of 16. Thought it was a great time to get our friend Dr. Janine Hubbard on. Janine and I talked about Australia, and we've talked about Saskatchewan, who flagged this as well, more from will it work or not work. It looks, though, Janine, like Manitoba is going to go down this path. So what ought they consider?
A few things. And again, it doesn't sound like there is a concrete plan. So I am hoping that they're going to, consult some of the experts. And I mean, our research, it's starting to build. But if I was running things, can I run things for a minute?
You can. You got it. You run the province of Manitoba.
And you've heard me say this before. We teach kids to drive, teenagers, by giving them classes, giving them instruction, and then we give them gradually increased responsibility and autonomy. And I think any kind of limitations should have something similar so that it's not an all or nothing. You don't go from, I'm not allowed to access any of this to suddenly it's a free-for-all.
Right.
So if I could recommend anything at all, it would be looking at, how do we set what is age appropriate? What are some things that maybe at 13 are okay, or at 16 are okay, and what are the things we're kind of saying, well, maybe actually that should wait till 18 or 19? Like, what are the developmentally appropriate stages of learning and development, and at the same time making sure we are teaching media literacy? That was on overdrive this weekend, trying to suss out what were real stories, what were not, what were real images, what wasn't. In theory, I have a well-developed, intelligent brain trying to sift through all of that, and it was complicated.
It's and it's getting worse by the moment, as you know. But so we also have the federal heritage minister, not the federal AI minister, though they're both working together, looking at what the federal government should do. I mean, there's all kinds of jurisdictional issues. That's a conversation for somebody who's an expert in those particular policies. But when you hear people and they want to react to this, you've laid out some of it. I mean, what would be a key few things to avoid then, do you think? Because you've talked about transitioning, which is important. What would you avoid? You wouldn't go down the path of a blanket ban, I'm guessing, then, Janine, as you are suggesting?
Well, I think, like I say, figuring out, and maybe in theory it's a blanket ban under 13 right now, but looking at what makes sense kind of looking at, well, what are the things that are potentially harmful and what are the things that are potentially helpful. Because we do know, as much as we give it a bad rap, there are times when things like social media can actually be helpful when used appropriately, but definitely knowing, well, who are people who are at risk, giving parents guidance. Because I think the problem is a lot of it, an outright ban is kind of it's a popular, what appears to be an easy solution, but the nuance is so much more complicated than that. So would I like to see things like big flags for images of self-harm or some of those kind of discussions? Yes, absolutely. Are there better controls that can be done in terms of content and perhaps in terms of keywords that are being flagged? There's fascinating research being done, flagging certain language usage as possibly being at risk for suicide or depression, and I think there's some things that we could introduce there.
One of the things that was interesting to me on the weekend when Canoe made this speech on Saturday night, and a lot of yesterday was about this, and of course what had happened in Washington to the president. And there are some parallels in terms of imagery and the like, but we won't go down that particular path. But was the battle of dueling narratives. There are some academics, as there should be, who say no. The harms of social media are overstated. That it's not really as bad as it's being made out to be. This is a politically driven story that is taken on entirely different proportions. I don't want you necessarily to pick apart other academics' research, but how would you guide people to find a balance of research as they try and sort this out themselves?
Absolutely. And again, remembering that a lot of this research is in its infancy. Some of the information that I pulled up was kind of looking at who is at high risk. And again, this is helpful just kind of in mind. What they're finding is teens or kids who are using for greater than 3 hours a day were considered to be kind of at high risk, and they figured that was about 10%. And then there's another 10 to 20% who are at moderate risk. So there's no question it is a high percentage of individuals who are using. And just when you think sheer population-wise, okay, 10% of kids is still a huge percentage of kids. Mm-hmm. But then there's 90% of kids who are not using and perhaps, are using more responsibly or are having parents who are setting limits and taking phones away so it's not disrupting their sleep, setting some of the timeline boundaries. Mm-hmm. I just did that last week, different level, but tablets for toddlers. And it's we're going to set the 1 hour, and that is the max. And then guess what? iPad goes to sleep because we've put the settings on it. I think there are definitely, I think government has a role in helping to mandate things like, the compulsive, kind of the scrolling feature and the never-ending feature. Mm-hmm. I think having a bit more government power to put limitations on the companies is helpful, and I think the more guidance we can give parents and families around that literacy, but also Canadian Pediatric Society came out with screen time guidelines based on research. That was what I used as reference when I was trying to set limits for toddlers. So use the research, help guide it, and know that I also look at the youth who are using it as a place to feel belonging, explore identity, get peer support. So when it's used actively and purposefully, it can actually be of benefit. But again, that's with proper instruction and supervision and ensuring, where are you getting your sources? Who is it you're reaching out to? How are you connecting? Who are you connecting with? So the short answer is it's complicated.
Yes, and don't just use the chatbots to guide you because they get things wrong. All right, Janine, helpful as always. Thank you for your time today.
Clear as mud, but I do have to give a shout out. There's a group at Sick Kids who are working towards giving some guidance for national legislation and provincial legislation. So I just sent you the link there. But Safe by Design, protecting children and youth in a digital world, and it sounds like because one of my colleagues in Manitoba has been asked to participate. So they're getting some of the right people involved.
Yes, and I bet when your Canadian Psychological Association officially has told you in June and you meet, this will be a big topic because I suspect one or two more provinces will be there by then. Janine, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Anytime, Tim. Thanks.